to be so real with you all. I pulled up this episode, and there is an ad scheduled towards the end of the episode. If it happens during a climactic scene, I'm gonna freak out! It's Romania Black, and we're on the penultimate episode of Dororo. It hit me today, because I'm getting ready to leave for a trip. As you are watching this, I will be on my trip, so I'm recording it ahead, because it will be premiering while I'm not at home. And I was like, oh yeah, we're doing episode 23. Oh, there's only one episode after this. And I was like, oh my God, it's so bizarre to me. Time is a weird construct. Time is a very weird construct, because I remember starting this show. It feels like yesterday. It feels like yesterday that I started this show as Berserk was ending, and I needed something to take its place. And it feels like it's been forever, but it's been 23 weeks, which is half a year, which is crazy, right? It's been 6 months of Dororo, and that is just bizarre to me that time has gone by that fast. What the heck, y'all? But here we are on episode 23 of Dororo, and it's the penultimate episode. I don't know how time flies. I don't understand it. It's so weird to me. Maybe you feel the same way, but the only comment I have before diving into this episode is from Moomin from episode 20, talking about the fruit that Hyakkimaru gives to Dororo, when things were so simple and kind and wonderful, back before demons were stealing your hearts and Tahomaru made a deal with the demon. Before all that, the fruit is apparently a kibia, and for some reason, according to Moomin, it's featured a lot in anime. I mean, it's a funky looking fruit. It's weird looking. It looks exotic and almost alien, so sure, why not? Why not? But yeah, y'all, it is just wild. It's so wild. I can't believe we're already here, but yeah, we're on the penultimate episode, and you think you're like, oh, well, things could be worse, but I mean, Dororo is separated from Hyakkimaru. Hyakkimaru is becoming a demon and is riding on a horse through the gates of hell. Daigo is not answering for any crimes right now. And Tahomaru has made a deal with the demon and is now being possessed and has Hyakkimaru's eye sticking out of him. And I talked about it last week, but I don't think things are going to end well in this series. And it's like the series is testing my faith, being like, how's it going to end? And I just don't know. But thank you for joining me on this journey. It means a lot. Before we start, I want to give a shout out to our philanthropy tier, because this is the only show I'm watching on this particular streaming service. And so y'all are helping me to pay for that subscription. So thank you. But a big giant thanks to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Be Happy, to Bryant Reed, to Dana, to Damage3245, to Devorin, to Danger Zone, to Destiny Marie, to Alexandra Q, to Ichu, Eric, Faisho, Ghostly Turnip, El Freya, Liam Polzel, Lyndon, Matthew Palfinier, Murphy, Adam Perez, Nicholas, Nago, Sunspots, Shimoyama, Trails, Translucent Men, Starman AA, Alexandra Q, and Bisa. Thank you so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. Yeah, I don't know how this series is going to end, and the worst part is, it's not even the last episode. No, it's going to be the battle between the two of them, and then we have an episode after that. So, the fact that this is not ending this episode, and we're going to have another episode, is just, I don't know what's going to go down this week. I have no idea, and I'm absolutely terrified, and I can't believe we're already here, so I don't know what else to do with that. But we're gonna find out. So we'll see. I was trying to think of what I would say about what my predictions are, but it's Hyakkimaru versus Tahomaru. But with the demon and everything, I don't know if we're gonna get a happy ending or a Hamlet. Or both. So we're just gonna have to see. So I hope you all are excited. I definitely am. But we're going to start episode 23 of Dororo. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's go. I can't believe that they're going to make us wait a week for episode 24. Oh man, I have other things I have to record before I go on my trip. I have other things I have to record, but I may have to get to this final episode next week before I leave, because I don't know if I can wait an entire, like, I'm going to be gone for like 9 days. I don't know if I can wait 9 days to find out how this ends. You all know how it ends, because I'm assuming unless you're watching with me, and then I'm sorry. Okay. So, I'm not surprised that we're still fighting with the two brothers at the very end, because we still have one more episode to go. So I was like, in my head, starting this episode, I'm like, they're not going to finish the fight before next week. They're not going to do that. They're going to torture us. That makes sense. But they're setting it all threads are converging, right? I thought that Mutsu and Hyogo were going to die. Did not anticipate Rapidash coming in and using Bite. Using Bite and Stomp to kill them. I didn't know you could teach a Rapidash that. You learned something new. Oh my god, that was the most grisly death. Thank God Mappa didn't put a lot of effort into animating it. The thing about it is, ever since I was informed that they were animating Banana Fish and finishing it up around the time that this was going on, I kept thinking, oh, all the budget went to Banana Fish. Because they clearly put all their budget into Banana Fish. Because if you've not watched Banana Fish, it's like one of the first series I ever watched on my channel. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite shows. It's a quality anime, and Mappa put in all the money for it. But this was like the Pocahontas to. This was like the Lion King and Pocahontas, right, with Disney. If you don't know that story, Disney was doing the Lion King and Pocahontas around the same time. Everyone jumped ship from the Lion King to go over to Pocahontas to do it. Not that Pocahontas is a badly animated movie. It's beautiful. It really is. But the Lion King is really, really good. So it's like, So I feel like all the animators were like Banana Fish, and then the ones that were left over went to this one. Not to say that Dororo is badly animated, but ever since about the halfway point, y'all know what I'm talking about, there's been moments where I'm like, we could have keyed that up a little bit. We could have added some more layers to that, but okay. And maybe it's a good thing. Maybe they got past the censors with it, because that Hyogo having his head ripped off was the most unsettling thing I have seen in a good long while. And I was like, oh! So, because I wasn't expecting it, right? I thought, we'll get to it. I was not expecting it. No offense, but Hyakkimaru, when he's like, hey, you have my eyes, and hey, oh my god, you all are probably thinking I am the biggest ditz in the last episode, because it did not, you probably have already commented, I'm sure. I'm sure you've already commented, I'm sure I've already answered those comments, but you all were probably like, Romania, the arms, the two arms, one was a right arm, one is a left arm, they're his arms that are now Hyogo and Mutsu's. That went completely over my head, because I was like, I was in my head so focused on the fact that they both lost their arms, so I was in my head going, oh, good, they lost their arms. That means they can't attack Hyakkimaru in the final couple of episodes. And then they went to the demons, and when they showed back up at the end with their arms, I was like, oh no, they're going to be able to fight Hyakkimaru. It did not click in my brain that one was the right arm, one was the left arm, and that the demon gave the arms back that were Hyakkimaru's. This demon's been hoarding parts in the Hall of Hell, for who knows how long. That did not register to me until this episode, so I'm sure y'all were like, really, Romania? And I was like, yeah. The angst the Midoro has been blinding me with its beautiful light, that we're just going to blame it on that. Oh my god. So yeah, so the moment you realize that, you're like, okay, well, he's going to have to kill them to get his arms back. I will make note, Hyakkimaru did not kill Hyogo Mutsu. The fiery flaming horse of hell he rode in on did, but then again, they were all acting under Tahomaru's orders either. So it's a definite symbolism of like the karmic cycle of violence. Like, the cycle of violence is, if you get caught up in it, you're just going to get burned, literally by a flaming horse of hell, as those two did. But I will make note, whenever Hyakkimaru was like, hey, I don't know if you knew this, but those are my eyes on your face, those are your arms that have replaced the arms that were taken from you. Those are mine. I don't know how to tell you this. And when they were like, no, they're Daigo's now, I was like, well, the now, as an English teacher, when you put the now on the end of the sentence, that means they weren't Daigo's before. That means that they were someone else's before, but now you're claiming them. So I was just like, I'm glad that they brought up the conversation about, who is owed what and what the point is. I'm so glad they brought that up in this episode because it's such a good point to kind of go across. And I was like, okay, we're finally going to talk about this. Because, yeah, they're not theirs. They were Hyakkimaru's. The demon, Daigo made the deal with the demon from the start. And I love that they talk about the cycle where Daigo wanted to do the easy way out. The whole kingdom, the land was impoverished from the start. You built your kingdom on a really shitty piece of land, right? So that's not anybody's fault but your own for making poor decisions on where to live. And then the famine and stuff came in, which is not the people's fault, but still. And so then Daigo, who wanted to be the hero and wanted to be the king and the great ruler, made the deal with the demons to trade his son for prosperity because he's like, well, I can always have more sons, but I can't always have more prosperity. So he traded his firstborn son for the chance to have a kingdom that was wealthy and prosperous. And they did that, but the mom kind of messed that up by saying like she kept the demons from finishing up the contract. So the demons waited but that's just how it works, right? The demons were like, okay, we'll give you what you want, but just so you know, you didn't keep your end of the bargain. So when it's opportunistic for us, we're going to come for that last piece. And it starts this thing. It's like a drug dealer giving you drugs where it's like, oh, this is going to give you some euphoria and happiness. Oh, but wait, that's only going to last for so long. Then you're going to have to come back and get some more, right? So that's kind of what it is. Like the demons are literally like drug dealers to Daigo. Drug dealers to Daigo is the alliteration I needed today. But it is. It's kind of like a drug deal where they're like, here, we gave you a little bit of drugs. We took your money. We took your firstborn son. Here's some prosperity. Oh, but you didn't finish the payment. You were like $5 short, and so now we're going to collect interest, and we're going to take everything, all your happiness away, but we'll give it back if you give us that $5 you owed us, which is your firstborn son. And if you're a drug addict, then you're like, okay, I'll find a way to get it to you, no matter what the cost, right? And so that's kind of what's happened here, is that the land wasn't prosperous. Daigo made a deal with the devil to make it prosperous at the cost of his son's life. The transaction wasn't fully completed. So Daigo got what he wanted for a little while. But then the son was like, hey, I want back what you took from me, Daigo, and I'm going to go get it because it's my body. It wasn't yours to begin with. I want what was mine. Sorry that you were stupid and made this deal, but I want my body back. And now Daigo has been telling everybody that, oh, well, things aren't going to be good now because of my son, when it was really his fault from the start. And so I'm glad that we're finally getting all this addressed. But that was just making me mad because I understand what Tahomaru and Hyogo and them are doing. But I'm also like, you all sold yourselves to the devil, so you're no better than Hyakkimaru. Hyakkimaru didn't even sell himself. Someone sold him for him. So it's like, I feel bad for him. I really do. Meanwhile, I loved the little horse. The little colt getting out and going to find Dororo, and this one guy that's like holding him back that's being nice. I liked these villagers. These villagers were great this episode. The one with the bandana looks like he'd be in Lilo and Stitch. He just looks like he's a surfer with like the emo bangs over his eyes. His hair's not back in the top knot or anything like that. But they're all deciding what to do. And they're like, well, we need to prepare for war. What are we going to do? Are we just... And then they make the point of saying, well, it's always the same thing. We just get shuffled from place to place. It's never any different. What are we going to do about it? And so at that point, the baby horse runs off. I like the metaphor of the baby horse running off to find the mom and going to the source and being proactive, which gets some of the villagers to be proactive to come and help. What a wholesome group of villagers and survivors. What a wholesome group, right? Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru is like, oh, hey, by the way, I couldn't help but notice that... And they say these are Daigo's eyes and limbs, and the land's going to crumble because you broke the contract with the demons. I was like, Hyakkimaru didn't break the contract with the demons. Technically, Daigo did, and the mom did, because they didn't fulfill the contract. And Hyakkimaru's like, I just want my body back. I'm not asking for much. And honestly, Hyakkimaru was like, look, all I want is my body back. Like, y'all took it from me. Just give it back. Why does this have to be hard? It's not my fault that your dad made a stupid deal. It's not my fault at all. So the episode's called The Story of the Demons. And, I mean, Hyakkimaru is going to some crazy extremes to get it. I love that Maru shows up just in time to kind of keep Dororo from running out there. He's like, hey, you know, you're probably not going to want to go out there because everything's kind of crazy. And the mom was actually, at one point I wondered what the mom was going to do in all of this, but she actually has a really good role to play in this. I'm interested to see the fact that her and Jukai are showing up. I was like, you have Tahomaru's mother and you have Hyakkimaru's mother in Jukai. Oh, I'm like, you're going to make me a wreck next episode. I just want both of them to almost incapacitate themselves. Because here's the thing. What I don't know is Tahomaru going to have to die to get the eyes back? Or I don't know any other way that Hyakkimaru can get his eyesight back unless he gives the eyes. Unless he just... At this point, either Tahomaru has to die to get Hyakkimaru his eyes back, or some other condition that would allow the contract to be null and void has to happen, but I don't know how else that can happen. Or Hyakkimaru has to give up the eyes and go with Dororo and just remain blind. But at that point, it's like he's done everything to get every part of his body back except the eyes. The one thing so you can see Dororo. And I'm like, I don't know how that's going to work. And I don't want Tahomaru to die. I don't want Hyakkimaru or him to die at all. I don't want that to happen. So I don't know... I don't want Tahomaru to die because I want him to live on and be the ruler. But at this point, it's this weird situation where Tahomaru has drank Daigo's Kool-Aid and is convinced that the kingdom won't be prosperous unless Hyakkimaru dies. And I'll get back to this discussion that Dororo makes later because I want to tie back to it earlier, but we're going to get there anyway. But I need Tahomaru to understand that, you know, what Dororo says that we'll talk about later on is that you need to quit giving things to demons. You need to quit relying on other things and the sacrifice of other people to make your kingdom great again when you need to just stand up and do it yourself, right? And so it's not a curse. Just stand up and do something, right? And I don't know if Tahomaru is going to be able to do that and break away from Daigo's influence. I don't know. We only have one episode left. And of course they're in a burning castle at the climax, and we end the climax there. I'm just glad the advertisement did not get in the middle of a battle scene, because I was waiting for that to happen, and the advertisement came right as Hyakkimaru was showing up at the palace, and I'm like, oh, thank God. We're not going to have that worry about that. When Maru says Hyakkimaru didn't think he would recognize him now, I get what Maru is saying, but I'm like, I think Maru underestimates how much Hyakkimaru is fighting for Dororo. Because, I mean, I get what Maru is saying. Maru's like, hey, they're all four kind of demonic right now. I don't know if you need to step in the middle of the fray. You'll probably get hurt. If not by Hyakkimaru, by the other three. But when Hyakkimaru does see Dororo later on, he does recognize him, and he does kind of pause, and is like, oh, there you are. So I feel like he would recognize Dororo. I don't think Maru realizes how much growth Hyakkimaru has done. He does want his body back, and that base instinct is still there. But he also, from being with Jukai and from realizing it, he does want Dororo to be safe as well. And so he's been trying to find him as well. Right? So then, Maru's like, the Hall of Hell. It's like, I like Dororo asks what that is. And the mom's like, yeah, they're the statues where the 12 demons ate Hyakkimaru. And Dororo's like, what? You were complicit with this? And she's like, yeah, kind of. It's like, ugh. So the 12th failed to devour him. That's why Hyakkimaru lived and is now being chased by demons. And Dororo's like, well, none of this is his fault. Daigo's the one that did all of this. And the mom is like, yeah, we were kind of complicit in all of that. And they're trying to get back what they failed to eat. And then Dororo's like, well, why hasn't he gotten back his body parts for a while now? And Maru's like, his arms and eyes are over there. That's why. So, and then the mom's like, well, shit. I feel bad for the mom that she's like, why did Tahomaru agree to take my other son's eyes and make a deal with a demon? She's like, oh no. But then there's another part of me that's like, oh no, you didn't think your son would do that? Even though he's been complicit with Daigo doing that too? Okay. I felt bad for Midoro. Justice for Midoro. Midoro, I have not felt any type of way for many of the demons in this series, but Midoro deserved better. Midoro was minding their own business in a stable in a happy village with their child, and these mother truckers took her away. Not only did they take her away, but they used her as a live grenade, and then she gets stabbed over and over again by demon-infested warriors, and girl goes out. Justice for Midoro. She didn't deserve that. I'm like, damn. So Maru's like, well, what do we do? And the mom says, well, this land cannot prosper without Hyakkimaru's sacrifice. And I love that Dororo eventually calls her out and is like, well, this place wasn't this place wasn't prospering before the sacrifice. So I guess we'll talk about it a little bit now. I love the theme in this episode that you cannot justify building up something off of the sacrifice of someone else. And they're like, and Dororo calls out the bullshit hypocrisy of the world because that's what so much of the world is. And Dororo's like, look, you all are like, you're bitched out about the samurai, you're bitching about them, but then when it comes time for somebody to protect you, you're hiring them, which leads this whole cycle to start all over again. And Dororo's like, y'all are just feeding the cycle. And if you're not going to break the cycle, then you're just going to keep being complicit with it, and over again, people are going to end up being hurt. And Dororo brings up a good point, like, say they do kill Hyakkimaru. Say they do that, and the land becomes prosperous again. For how long? Before the demons are like, yeah, remember how you guys owe us stuff? Like, eventually, something's going to happen, and they're going to need to sacrifice something else to keep it up, or it's going to deplete. So then who do you sacrifice? Whose life do you end the next time? Because it's not going to end. If you keep feeding the bear, it's going to keep coming back. If you keep feeding the demon, it's going to keep coming back wanting more because it's a demon. So just because you kill Hyakkimaru, it's not going to be a cure-all. You're still going to be caught in the same cycle, but next time you might be asking for the sacrifice, and somebody has to kill on your behalf. So it's just Dororo calls out the cycle and is like, y'all need to quit trying to scapegoat other people to be the solutions to your own damn problems. And I'm like, speak your truth, Dororo. Dororo's like, maybe y'all should stand up for yourselves, and if things aren't going well, frickin' do something about it, but quit making other people sacrifice themselves to fix it for you. And I'm like, oh my god, yes! I love it. I love it, because the mom's like, well, what do we do? And the colt, Dororo's like, oh shit, the baby colt's going over there. And they're like, catch that horse. I love that these men in the village, they're not worried about this demon battle. They're just like, we gotta stop this horse. I cannot believe when Midoro stomped on Hyogo, I was like, okay, I thought the horse was like gonna stomp his chest, or the horse was gonna like step on his arm and break it off or something. Did I expect the horse to lean down and rip its head off with its teeth? Nope! Sure didn't! The horse was like, mother trucker, bye, bitch. And I'm like, oh, Hyogo did not deserve that. Because it saw its baby coming, right? And I thought, oh my god. But here's the thing. Justice for Midoro. Midoro had its hoof on Hyogo. Here's the thing. Do I think the horse would have stepped off Hyogo seeing its baby and ran towards its baby? I think it would have. I think when it saw the baby running towards it, it kind of like froze. I think if they had just let Midoro do its thing, it would have gotten off of him and went towards the baby horse, and then they could have gone after Hyakkimaru. I think that's what would have happened. And y'all may not agree with me on that, but I think that's what happened. But you know what they did instead? Instead of seeing the baby horse coming and letting Midoro go back with its baby, what'd they do instead? They stabbed the horse. Both of them. They stabbed the demon horse, made the X with the blood, and the demon horse was like, it just got caught all back up in the cycle of violence all over again. And it's been prefaced, like, the flaming house with the rat demon and the rat babies, the moment that Tahomaru was like, we can't let them live. Once they're a demon, they don't deserve to live, and they burn the house with the rat and the rat babies. Once that happened, that was a turning point. And once Hyogo and Mutsu were complicit with that, it's like, oh, you're totally going to be fine. You're not going to let him go. because that's what the mindset they had. And so I like that callback. That's the mindset they decided. But here's the problem. Once you get caught up in that cycle of violence, you are implicated within it. So Midoro's like, oh, I see. So because I'm a demon, I deserve to die. Well, you're all part demon too, so guess what? Now you get to die with me, since you wouldn't let me go to my baby horse. And honestly, if they just let that horse go, that horse would not have grabbed him by the head and ripped it off. Midoro's like, oh, bitch, I was going to leave you both and go to my baby, but I see how it is. And it's like, I see how it is. And yeah, they slice that damn horse, and that horse is like, welp, guess what, bitch? Now this is happening. I cannot believe it ripped his head off. That was insane. Mappa could have animated that and made it the most gruesome, horrifying thing in the world. Luckily, the quality was toned down enough. It was like, oh. And of course, Tahomaru. I like the Tahomaru, all of the eyes get big at the same time. I feel bad that Hyogo and Mutsu were killed by the demon horse. I feel less bad because they kind of caused it themselves. It's like, you kind of did that. And then, yeah. And again, these people walking behind horses, have they learned nothing? It's like, you don't walk behind a horse. You will get your ass kicked. And in this case, Mutsu got their entire arm kicked off from a demon horse. You don't do that. It's a big no-no. Yep, arm kicked off and everything. And the thing about it is, it was the arm that was not the demon arm. And at that point, whenever Hyogo's body was still moving while the head was no longer attached, I was like, they weren't really human anymore. They were pretty demon. Yikes. I felt bad that Tahomaru lost his friends, but at the same time, I'm like, they kind of sold their souls to a demon. And a lot of people will be like, well, Hyakkimaru is the same. But I'm like, Hyakkimaru did not willingly sell their soul to a demon. Now, granted, they have killed people, and that was a conscious decision. And you could say that that's feeding into the same thing as a demon, but they did not openly sell their soul to a demon. That was Daigo. I feel so bad for Mutsu, though. And they finally made it to their baby. Oh, and got to see their baby one more time. With the sword stuck through its throat and its heart. And then it falls down and just dies. To Tahomaru's credit, they did go back to Mutsu and Hyogo. And then they were like, oh, hey, by the way, just keep on killing for us. I feel bad for Tahomaru losing his friends, because that sucks. Because that really sucks. And it's like, oh, because they followed him till the end. And the mom's like, I like the mom crying, like, well, But in the same vein, meanwhile, Hyakkimaru gets his arms back. That whole sequence was crazy. He has his arms back. And then the fact that he immediately grabbed the blades to fight Tahomaru. Here's the thing. Hyakkimaru can feel. He has feeling in those hands. So the whole time I was like, he's grabbing a blade and holding it. Like, your hands are so sensitive. There are nerves and everything. Like, the pain he's going through in this episode to fight back against Tahomaru is insane. And Tahomaru just feeding off of wanting vengeance for Mutsu and Hyogo and fighting with him again even further. Here's my thing. I feel like when all is said and done, I don't want Hyakkimaru to die. Because I don't think it's fair for him to die. Like, he's just wanted his body back. If Tahomaru had not made a deal with the devil, all Hyakkimaru had to do was go and find the demon in the Hall of Demons and kill it. That's really all he had to do. And I think that Tahomaru, in making the deal with the demon, kind of sealed his own fate. I don't want Tahomaru to die, but I don't know how Hyakkimaru can get his eyes back without doing so. And a part of me would be like, well, maybe, because Dororo seems like they're going to go tell Hyakkimaru, be like, I'll be your limbs, I'll be your eyes, don't die, don't become a demon, just come with me and we'll figure it out. I don't know if Hyakkimaru is going to do that. I don't want Hyakkimaru to die. I don't think that's fair. Right? I don't think it's fair. Tahomaru made decisions that's like, well, you had the chance to do all these things and not do them, but you still did them. And I get why you made those decisions, but, Dororo and them kind of point out how you do have the option to not make those decisions. So, I don't want Hyakkimaru to die. but I don't think he will. I think he'll get his eyes back. I'm going to be sad if he has to kill Tahomaru to get the eyes back. I'm going to be sad. But what I think is going to happen, though, regardless, if Hyakkimaru lives, regardless of whether he gets the eyes back or doesn't get the eyes back, I think his hands, because of holding the blades, I don't think he'll be able to hold a sword again. I think his hands will be ruined, which would be very poetic in a sense if him and Dororo ran off and he could never hold a sword again because of the hands. I think that would be poetic, that he's like, my last battle was against my brother and the demons, and that's it. To be fair, Hyakkimaru did not kill Hyogo and Mutsu, so there's that. The moment that Hyakkimaru sees the blades in his hands and sees the mom, and he sees his eyes with Tahomaru, and he looks over and sees the horse and then sees his mom with Dororo and realizes who they are, he hides the sword behind his back because he doesn't want to see her with him holding the swords. Which is sad. Like, in that moment, he doesn't want her to see it. And not only that, he not only does not want to see it, he's afraid if she gets near him, he might hurt her. So he's trying to, like, keep himself from hurting her because he doesn't trust her. It's really sad. And then Tahomaru's like, I'm going to kill him. And the mom's like... I hate it when Tahomaru called Hyakkimaru a thing and called him an it. Like, that was so othering and, like, making him less than human. And I'm like, have you looked in the mirror, sir? You are as demonic as Hyakkimaru is now. Like, that's not even fair. And he says it so I'm sure he doesn't have to face the reality that he's killing his flesh and blood brother. But, I mean, Hyakkimaru's like, I'm not even trying to kill Tahomaru in this moment. Like, Hyakkimaru could have kept fighting with the two of them in front of him. He could have kept fighting him. But instead, Hyakkimaru, like, runs away. And Tahomaru goes after him. Like, Hyakkimaru made the conscious decision to lead Tahomaru away from the two of them so that they wouldn't get hurt. I'm like, that is wild to me. That is such character growth for Hyakkimaru because he didn't want them to get hurt. But he also was like, I want my body back. So what do I need to do? I hate the baby horse howling like a damn dog. What the fudge? We did not need that. We did not need that. I don't think horses do that in real life. I've never had a horse dying from someone else. But poor Taho. I like that the village people prayed over the two bodies, which is good. And so Biomaru's like, well, a beast it may be, but the bond between mother and child is likewise strong. And I feel bad for the mom because she's like, my kids are demons. They're taking after their dad too much. What did I do to deserve this? We'll talk about Daigo here in a minute. But poor Dororo. Dororo's like, what do I do? And I love the idea that they go past the boat and past where Hyakkimaru was abandoned and put into the boat and shuffled off with Jukai. Like, they go past that same area. And then we see Jukai being like, you know, why does everyone get in my way? The body you regain will be stained with human blood. Which is crazy that it's his own human blood that's being stained with right now. Like, the swords are stained with his own blood. And so Hyakkimaru is like, human, what is human? And he's like, and that's when Tahomaru says, a curse upon our land. And he's like, it's mine and I'm getting it back. He's like, what's so wrong about that? And that's the thing. That's kind of the point that Dororo brings up, where he, like, puts the swords down and he looks at his hands, like, what's so wrong about getting it, and sees the blood on them as well. And that's when Tahomaru shows up to, like, find him. And the eyes looking out and the eyes seeing, like, the demon vision and seeing it. I want to go back. Are they, like, mostly Tahomaru's got a lot of blood on his hands and a lot of demon energy around him. At this point, it's almost like Hyakkimaru is defending himself. He ties the swords to his hands so that he can't let them go and can't drop them. And he can fight like he normally has. But here's the thing. Dororo brings up later on in the episode that what Hyakkimaru is doing, and I've been trying to find a way to articulate it and why I'm so for it for him. But it's the idea that if you want something that is your own body's, then you have that right to protect it and claim it. It's your body. It's you. And I'm, as somebody that's like, my body, my rights, I'm like, oh yes, Hyakkimaru, I'm with you. Like, someone took something away from you. You should have that right to have it back. It's yours. You were born with it, right? Hyakkimaru's not trying to, like, claim a city. He's not trying to, like, claim Dororo as his own. He's just like, no, I want my eyes back. They were mine when I was born. You took them. That's not fair. I want them back. And Dororo talks about how you shouldn't be sacrificing others to get what you want. You should just go claim something for yourself. Like, don't rely on the samurai. If you want to defend your home, which he knows from his parents, right? His parents were doing the same thing. And he's like, if you want to go get something, go get it. And so Hyakkimaru cannot help that Tahomaru made a deal with the devil. That's Tahomaru's business. But he's like, I want my eyeballs back. So give them to me, or I'm going to take them. And it's not my fault you got in the middle of it. But yeah, I felt like Hyakkimaru was on the verge of saying something. This is like the most we've seen him talk in an episode. And of course, Tahomaru gets in the way of that by freaking battling him. And so meanwhile, he's looking as Jukai goes around. Yep, and he sees Hyakkimaru, the body you regain will be stained. And he's like, but still, he's like, I want to get my body back because I want to be able to defend Dororo. So meanwhile, they're all thinking about what to do. And I love that they all have this, it's impossible to stop them until one or the other dies, which the mom, I'm like, is the mom going to do anything? And then she ends up doing something, which was good. And they're like, and I like these guys in the village who, I do like the callback because in the last episode, they were up on the hill, philosophical, like having these philosophical conversations and thinking about and theorizing like what it means, having these political debates. And they're like, so this Hyakkimaru guy got his body back. He got his body back from the demon, right? And that's causing disasters in the land. And Dororo's like, I'm about done with this narrative. And Dororo's like, so what? And they're like, well, if he gives his body back to the demons. And Dororo's like, say that again! Say it again! Go ahead! He's like, you want to live by eating my brother. Like, how is that fair? Because Dororo knows from the house back with Sabame, he's like, that's exactly like what it is. You all want to kill my brother, like Sabame killed that nun and those innocent children to feed your village. But it's like, that's not how it should be. You shouldn't have to murder people to supply your own desires. Like, go do it yourself. Get a job. So, because he's like, that's not where it stops. Sabame didn't just stop with the children being killed in the church. He still killed people afterwards to keep feeding the babies. It did not end because it's a cycle and it will never end once you get implicated into it. And Dororo's like, I'm freaking sick about it. He's like, you've all had to go through tough stuff too. Quit relying on my brother to be a sacrifice. You're fine with making another human go through worse just to feed your own desires? You're like the samurai and the demons. Which, yeah, that's exactly the comparison. And I like the one guy is like, now hold on. We're not saying it's right. We're just expressing the trolley problem that it is. They're like, but, he's like, well, consider it this way. It's your brother or a whole domain. And Dororo's like, no, this is not the trolley problem. I like Dororo's like, no, we're not going to make this a trolley problem. He's like, they said that the land is more important than my brother. And the mom says, well, maybe that's so. She says, but it's not that I don't care. She says, that's kind of prosperity is not sustainable. Peace built upon the sacrifice of one is but fragile. I understand that painfully well now. And they all kind of just stop. I love her. I love her in this moment with this monologue where she's like, the years of prosperity in our land was built upon one person's sacrifice. And how fragile that is. We were but chicks being fed by the hen. We stood here with our mouths open and just devoured whatever was fed to us without questioning. We did not obtain with our own hands, so we cannot protect it. And it's like, yes, that whole time it's like, because they didn't gain the land themselves, this prosperity wasn't theirs that they earned, so how can they protect it? How is that sustainable? It's not. And I love that she finally has this monologue about it to all of them. And she holds up her own hands, which I love the conversation of hands in this episode. Like, Dororo does it, the mom does it, Hyakkimaru does it. She's like, I cannot have the power. I have not the power to stop my own children. Yeah. She's like, that's how I feel. And Dororo's like, well, then Dororo's like, then I'm just going to go get Hyakkimaru and say, hey, I'll defend you with my own hands. Let's get out of here. We were complaining about how samurais and wars complaining doesn't change a thing. In the end, we end up waiting for the samurai to come and do something for us. But if we want to protect something, we have to do it ourselves and get it ourselves. We have to grab it with our own two hands. And we have to be strong in order to do that. And Dororo's like, my brother is being strong. He's being strong and doing this for himself. And not a lot of people can do that. And so then they talk about, you could let go of all power. Not, if you get too strong, you can become a demon. But if you let all power go, then you become a Buddha. Then you could be the path of the Buddha of mercy. But neither of those are truly human. Humans often go to extremes. We're either so hell-bent on power that it corrupts us, or we give all of it away and are a pacifist, and it, weakens us to where we can be attacked. But it's hard for humans to find that middle ground, right? But, that's not to say that they can't. Either way, as Maru says, and he kind of grimaces there, you'll be no longer human if you get too much power or you deny it altogether. So it's about finding balance, right? So I can't believe Daigo's been sitting here the entire time doing jack shit. He's finally decided to go out into battle, and I can't believe, I'm not surprised that he doesn't send any backup troops to his son, but he knows that Tahomaru is fighting Hyakkimaru. I think he was okay with it because the one guy didn't say that Hyogo and Mutsu were dead. He just said Hyogo and Mutsu were with them. And Daigo's like, he's probably thinking, oh, well, I feel like if it's the three of them versus Hyakkimaru, it's totally okay. Now, if the guy had mentioned a giant hell horse that could possibly rip off someone's face, then that might have changed some things. But I'm really curious about Daigo being in the army during all of this and going off to battle and him being like, oh, it's fine. I'm not going to lose anything to my kingdom. I've still got an heir. We're totally cool. My castle's not on fire. I wonder if he's going to be able to see it from this distance. I wonder. I'm really curious about what we're going to get next episode with Daigo. Because as far as this goes, he's like, well, I can't lose. And he's going off into battle. But is he going to get killed in battle? He's like, if I do, all that's happened this far will amount to a mere dream. So yeah. He's like an addict. He's got to keep going. So we see him in front of the demons back in the flashback, and we go back in the past before he has the mark on his head, and he's at the Hall of Hell praying to the demons, and the lightning strikes, and it makes the X over him. And then that's the deal, and the demon is right there. Ooh. So he breaks the fan as he stands up. My question is, I guess we're going to find out next episode, but does Daigo have any part of Hyakkimaru? Did he make a deal and trade out any part, and that's how he got the scar? So even if Tahomaru loses and Hyakkimaru gets his eyes back, does Daigo have any part of Hyakkimaru? I don't know. I'm going to be curious what happens to Daigo next episode, because it looks like he's riding off into battle, and I don't know what's going to happen from here on in. I love that Daigo at the end, even at the end, he's like, well, I'm the lord of this kingdom. There's no way I made a bad mistake. He is not Joe for Arrested Development. He's like, there's no way I could have made a poor decision. He's like, everything I'm doing is totally right. And then the one guy's like, oh, hey, your sons are fighting. But he's like, I guess it's okay. And Daigo's like, nah. He's like, Tahomaru is the heir of Daigo. He'll be fine. He'll be victorious. And the guy backs up like, okay, I'm leaving. I love that guy's like, cool, peace out. That's so wild to me that Daigo had so much faith in Tahomaru, which I guess if he has Mutsu and Hyogo, he's like, he'll be fine. And then that line, he won't lose to a demon's leftovers. That is your son, sir, that you sacrificed. What the fudge? Ugh. And he's like, well, I'll go fight too. I wonder if he's going to die in the battle. If he dies in the battle, will that end the curse? I don't know. So, again, the one good thing is that I will give Tahomaru credit for this. Tahomaru could have kept all those men in the palace and made them fight alongside him against Hyakkimaru, but he didn't want their lives to be in jeopardy, so he did tell them to leave. So, Tahomaru gets some points for that one. It's just so sad because Tahomaru, like, spared all their lives by making them gout. Hyakkimaru took the battle with him and Tahomaru somewhere else so that Dororo and the mom wouldn't get implicated. Like, they both, if they could sit down and talk to one another, they both would be fine. But what the fudge? And so, like, there's no... And so then, they're like, run if you value your lives. And they all leave. They're like, goodbye! You look like a demon. See ya! And so as Hyakkimaru, there's no human way either, huh? Humans can only struggle between the two extremes. I mean, just toggle back and forth. And then Biyamaru's like, well, maybe that's what makes us human, is that we toggle between those extremes to try to find that middle ground. And then Dororo's like, well, I'm tired of talking about philosophy. We don't know until we try. Let's quit sitting on our hands. You don't stop being human just because you're strong. Dororo's like, it's not about strength, it's about your heart. And if you have a good heart, you won't become a demon. So I feel like that could apply to both Tahomaru and Hyakkimaru. I feel like that could apply to both. And so Biyamaru and them kind of smile. I don't know if they're smiling because they agree with Dororo or if they're, smirking. I don't know exactly if that's one way or the other. But they're like, we got to protect what's ours by ourselves. And they're like, well, how do we obtain that power, though? Well, Dororo's like, don't make deals with demons, first of all, but I got to go get my brother back. And so then we have the fight in the palace. I mean, it's very poetic that we're back to the beginning, where this all started. We're back to the beginning. It'd be fun if they took this battle to the Hall of Hell, but I don't know if that'll happen. And Hyakkimaru's like, look, just give me the eyes back. We can do this very quietly, but nope. I like when Tahomaru says any last words, and Hyakkimaru's like, F you, by not saying anything. Like, what do you mean last words? No. I don't want them both to die, and I don't want either of them to die, but I don't know how this is going to end, otherwise. And he's like, just give them back my last missing parts. So the castle's burning, and they're like, nope. And the mom's like, I gotta go. The ones fighting up there are my sons. And then who shows up at the same time? But Hyakkimaru. She's like, I'm their mother. And then Jukai shows up. But what does Jukai have? He has something in his hands. Oh, is it a goddess of mercy? It's time to do what I must. Is that a goddess of mercy statue? What's he going to do with that? Is he going to save? Can the power of Christ compel Tahomaru and get the demon out of him and exorcise the demon? Is Jukai going to go to the Hall of Hell and use the goddess of mercy to stop the demons? What are we going to do next episode? This is why I can't wait. No! Ah! Damn it. Oh my gosh. And yeah, they're both just fighting this burning building at each other. And Dororo's like, look, I know what we need to do now, but I need you to live because I can't do it alone. I need you to be with me. You can come with me. Let them have your eyes, your arms, your legs, whatever. If you want eyes, I'll be your eyes, and I'll be your limbs. So please, don't die, and don't become a demon. Ugh! Mother Trucker! I really liked the last couple of episodes, and this episode was really good. Now what? So, holy cow. Well, fine. I'm pretty excited to see what the season finale is going to be like. I'm going to wait a couple days. I'm recording this on Thursday. So I'm going to wait and see what the comments for episode 21 and episode 20 will be. And then of course I'll answer your comments from here on in, but I'm going to wait and see a few more comments, and then I'll watch episode 24 because I can't wait that long. So, anyway, I'm excited to hear your comments and thoughts down below about these episodes. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'm going to be back real soon with the finale of Dororo. Bye!